Today, first, I just want to take that moment to welcome and to share in that joy. But I wanted to just go over some important points I wanted to make for those people. This may not apply to everyone in the group, but there are some people who have joined the group or connected on other platforms because they were interested in Microlocs, or they're kind of wanting to, know what way would work better for them. Just kind of filter down through the information. So I wanted to share some information that feels important to think about and know before or as you're considering. And even if you've already gotten, there's something I think that could still be valuable. You might find valuable in the information. So, and I pulled this information from 12 years of direct service doing this and 13 years of having it myself, that I feel consistently, this is some things that come up, and I hear one of the worst things I think people feel is like they didn't get what they really wanted, or they wanted something slightly different, or what the outcome would be a little different. And so there's some things to do. It's really important before you take that leap and that step. All right. First of all, hi. If anybody wants to say hi while you're catching me live, you can say hi. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. And just let me know you're watching. Let me know you're here. Okay. So with anything, I always feel like it's important to plan it out. Plan out, know what you want. What what is it that you really desire? Because if you leave it open-ended, you're going to get open-ended results. If you're really specific, when I saw this woman in the store before I got my hair locked with something that looked like, it was just like exactly what I wanted, from the sizing to the tension to the everything, the neatness. And I was very clear about what I wanted going into my consultations with other people, what was existing at the time. In 2007, I was going on what was out. And then I finally found this woman, and she told me, who did her hair. But what I thought I had in mind about sizing and all these things, it was good to have expert consultant I was speaking to actually really flesh that out for me and tell me what I needed to know about sizing and what I need to know for my hair texture. And I found that helpful. So that's information, and I'm giving a summary. All these points can be broken down much further, but just be kind of clear about finding the sizing that's right for you, right for the look you're trying to achieve, right for your texture, and the way that the locks are started. People who know a little bit about me know that I recommend it's really one way that I highly recommend to start Microlocs as I define it. And so there's certain other techniques where sizing comes more into play, and strength and integrity, all those things, all those factors come into play. So you got to understand how you're starting it and how the sizing is going to be affected. I've seen people now coming to me or consulting with me online who have started their hair with braids. They had a concept of sizing in their mind, but the braids were way too big. Parts were even if the braids look small, there's a little bit of skill in sizing for you to get that final result. So I was seeing, and I had to regrid on some people, and still, because unless I was going to redo the whole thing, I knew that the size that they had in mind wasn't going to match up with what they were doing. And so it's really important to know the end result of what you're trying to achieve. If you're going to try to DIY it or pull from different techniques. So it's always really good to know or have an expert opinion about what is going to give you what you're really looking for, because as her hair is going to mature, she's going to have less density, and they're not going to swell and expand the same way. So I felt like she could go smaller, have them swell with the interwoven pattern I talk about, that interlocking pattern, and have them be the size she's seeking with the density, with the strength, with all the other factors, because the braid pulls the hairs in tighter and differently, and they've locked if they expand differently. So it all is something to think about. I'm not going to be able to really go into it super detailed, but just giving you overall a method. So that goes into the method of starting it, the tools, have all that planned out. Like, how are you going to maintain your hair? Is it feasible? Some people have this concept of really teeny tiny, but when the reality hits, are really teeny tiny, what that requires in maintenance, what that means in strength, what that means in all these other factors, and that you could have a different size give you the same kind of um, small, neat look, same kind of volume, but be much more manageable for you for your retightenings, be much more resilient if you have to go long stretches between retightenings. And and also lock consistently, because you know there's sometimes I can see hair that's like stringy and bump, it has all these different things going on, and so sizing comes into play as well as the method and the tools that are used. So got to think about those things and your maintenance routine. This is where sometimes I could hit people don't may not like what I say, but are you a product junkie? Are you a recovering product junkie? Are you willing to let go of a lot of things to get the best results? Are you still trying to figure out what to use for the best results? Are you dipping and dabbling and not sure? So you have to make sure you are clear and sure about how the maintenance routine is going to look for what you're doing, what's the best even type of products, and how often you should use those type of products. And experimenting and things may become more limited because you really don't want to mess around too much, especially if you invested a lot of time and money and then you are doing things that are going to be counterproductive. It's almost like taking that money and just like throwing it away a little bit. When you really want to get the best bang for your buck and have, I call it like $1 million high end looking hair, you got to do things and to create that. You have to be really clear and diligent about the results that you are trying to achieve. This may not be for everyone, and that's cool. I know for me, back in 2007, when I dropped, I think I paid $800 then. My hair was really short. That was almost my rent. And I was doing a lot of things. I was a 20-something-year-old with responsibilities, and I did not want to invest that kind of money and then not be clear about how I need to treat my investment. So that's something I want to bring up. Um, Another point that I think people need to make sure that they're aware of is if you have any scalp, hair issues, thinning, breakage, really understand what's happening with that, and if that's an ongoing thing, if that's temporary. Like for me, I tell people a lot. I had micro braids, and I had a lot of things, tension, alopecia. So my edges were very fragile anyway. And then I had like perm damage and stuff. So as I was growing my hair natural, I still had areas that were a little thinner. And so it was good for me to sit with my consultant who uh, became my loctician and really go over those areas and have her really assess and we understand that how we will treat that, if that's okay to start with the hair thinning in that way, etc. Some people have there's different types of scalp issues, excessive dandruff, things like that. Some of it it's manageable and you can still get great results with your hair as long as you manage that. But there's some things that may need to be addressed a little bit before you start putting the locks in, because your maintenance routine is going to be different if you really want great hair. So if people are getting medications from their dermatologist, if they're going to possibly be on medication, or they're something's going on before they lock, but it's kind of been suppressed because they've been putting a lot of product, and then you're now essentially starving your scalp and hair of all those products when you go to the lock side, and now you may have a react, I call it like a shock, and you're like flakes and everything. So how are you prepared to handle that? Do you understand what that entails? Are you ready? Like those are things to think about. Sometimes there's not really an issue. I always say that the issues do subside, especially when you start using more natural products and you start eliminating a lot of the chemical products, even products you think are great because they look like they're natural, or they have companies that promote. There's still a lot of things in them, and your scalp and skin is all reacting to it. So when you remove a lot of those, the crutch that you, or the things that were happening in your scalp can change. And sometimes it goes through this like detox shock, and then it subsides. That's a point that I wanted to bring up. Also, so 2 points, and they're equally in my mind right now. What should I say next? Microlocs means different things to different people. If many have watched my webinar or have heard from me talk before, in 2009, I was using a technique in a system that I was clear about when I was calling my services Microlocs. And now some people use it to encompass and mean different things. So you got to be clear about what that means and what you're getting and how that is going to progress long term. So that's important, because sometimes people are trying to compare results, but the methods and techniques are going to take a different course. They all have their own way of developing. And so sometimes if I started with the interwoven method, if I started it with braids or twists, something, I don't recommend twist at all, but if someone starts it with twist, my hair would look different. Now my hair is older, and so all this is, none of the original hair that was locked is like left, but it would have looked different. And also that the sizing and the parting, like all those things matter long term for the results. You got to think about those things and really be solid and clear about it. The other point I wanted to make was, are you prepared mentally and physically for the process? And I'm speaking from, y'all guys know I have a social work degree in multiple states, licensed in multiple states. So I talk on this, but it's real, because as I was going through the process, I didn't realize how much it took of me to see myself go through those stages of 4 inches of hair, round face, like I wasn't. And so I see a lot of people, you're excited and sometimes end results in mind about what you want, but then when you go through the process, there's times that you may feel challenged by what's happening, what you're seeing. And I talk about that more in another video on my YouTube channel. You can check that out later. I'll try to link it. But trusting the process, but also knowing that there's going to be, so that's the mental part of it I talk about, but then there's the physical part when I talked about the product usage, how your hair is progressing, styling, all these different things that you may be limited or have to change or drastically shift. Being prepared for that is important. And something that I just made up this term. You know how there's buyer's remorse? Well, I say there's locker's remorse. And it's a phase where you think, you're like, what did I do? Do I like this? I went through it, and it was weird because I look back at the pictures and I was like, she did a great job. Like, I felt she did a great job, technically, but I didn't understand it. And if it wasn't my world, I was coming from the weave and the loose natural and all the other world, I didn't understand locks, number one, but I didn't understand how my hair was going to go through this process and the quote unquote stringiness or the fuzzy phase. And so after you invest that time and money, you wonder, and then I got through it fine. I'm saying it's volumes to having a great loctician or person doing your hair, because she supported me right through and it was no issue. But in the moment I was like, I don't know if I like this, I don't know. So that for me, I feel like it's a combination of the mental and physical prep that if I kind of was blindsided by it, but I got through it and obviously ended up loving the results. But those are some things that you want, because overall I think people should make sure that you get what you want. You get what you really want. And just life right now is just reminding me, invest and get what you really want. If something's not really what you want, just know you might not be 100% happy. If something is what you want, go for it. And you just have such a higher satisfaction level, especially for a long-term investment, hopefully when you get your hair locked at this size, that you're not doing it temporarily, but it can be a bulk of your life. Like, this is almost 13 years of my life is, and feeling good those years is valuable. as opposed to sometimes people wish that they've gotten a certain size, or they wish that they, um, they think that they, whatever. And so some small or big, sometimes people think they wanted it small, but they really wanted it bigger. And so there was someone that had come to me from getting an install with a competitive brand that was way too small, and she had me combine them, and then she ended up loving the results after they were combined. There's another client that I had that thought she wanted it a certain size, and then she kept, every time she come, she see me and say, "Oh, I wish I got it smaller." And I was just, her hair is beautiful, but and sometimes people don't know, but I do think it's just putting a little bit of time and energy into making sure you're clear about certain things that matter to you. Sometimes people don't, it doesn't matter to people. To me, it mattered. And to a lot of people, it ended up mattering. So those are just some things that I want people to think about. Um, if there's, you know, if they want to make sure that they have uh, bang for their buck and a great experience. So I absolutely can't see any comments or anything. I wanted to just get on here and thanks so much for taking time to listen to this. And I look forward to sharing more with you guys. Feel free to ask any questions or comments. Um, Welcome new students. New students, please head over to the private group. I'm about to go live in there and share some things there as well. All right. All right, guys, have a great rest of your evening. Bye.